Ladies and gentlemen, we got them. By we, I mean my Philadelphia 76ers, and by them, I mean the Miami Heat in last night's play-in tournament game, where the Sixers will advance to the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs against the New York Knicks in a 7-game series. Oh my goodness, folks, that game was an absolute roller coaster for me. What an amazing basketball game for both sides, but mainly my Sixers, and what an absolutely awesome performance from everyone on the Sixers team to come back in that game. Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler? No. Nick Batum over Jimmy Butler? Yes. In this video, we're going to talk about last night's game against the Sixers versus the Miami Heat. We're going to talk about what the future holds for the 76ers in the 2024 NBA playoffs. And we're also going to talk about what's their ceiling in the playoffs this year. We're going to talk about Embiid's injury. We're going to talk about Jimmy Butler's injury that he sustained in the game last night, what that means for the Miami Heat. We're also going to be recapping the Bulls versus Hawks game and talk about the matchup between the Heat and Bulls and who will advance to the first round to play the Celtics and what that means for the Eastern Conference. Let's get into it, folks. I am so absolutely hyped. I said in yesterday's video that I was either going to be in the best mood possible or the worst mood possible going into this video, and oh my goodness, if you watch yesterday's video, you would know that I was saying how the Western Conference play-in predictions for me were both wrong, and that I wanted to make sure that I got the wrong predictions out of the way because my Sixers were playing yesterday. So that is what happened. Both of my predictions came true for the Eastern Conference matchups. What an insane wild ride that game was last night. Sixers advanced to play the Knicks, like I said, but I want to talk about the game specifically and how awesome it was for me personally and just the entire recap. So basically, Sixers came out early. They came out swinging, in my opinion, for the first quarter. They had total control over that game. Then a switch flipped. Basically, Eric Spoelstra implemented the patented Miami Heat zone defense, and the Sixers were struggling. I mean, they had over 10 turnovers in the first half, I believe. We couldn't get easy shots. We couldn't get any good shots. Couldn't generate offense. Defensively, we were struggling, turning the ball over. Easy fast break points for Jimmy Butler and company. It was just an absolute disaster. I went into that half thinking our season was over pretty much because we're gonna have to play the Celtics, and the Heat just looked way better than us. Pretty sure the Miami Heat had an 11-point lead going into the second half. I was actually amazed that it was only 11. It felt like we were getting absolutely destroyed, down 20. We should have been down 20. Like I said, the Heat zone had us in a straitjacket, and then we came out in the second half with a whole different energy. The crowd got into it. Philly fans were rocking at Wells Fargo Center. I don't know what happened in the second half that Coach Spoelstra decided to start playing more man defense, but they came out of the half just totally different. Like I don't know why they would go away from the zone when it was working perfectly for them. They came out in man. We started, going back and forth. Eventually ended up tying the game closer to the end of the third quarter, I believe. And then the fourth quarter was really like a seesaw effect. It was just back and forth, clutch shot after clutch shot. I will say again, Jimmy Butler did sustain a knee injury, I believe in the second quarter of the game. And it turns out that is actually a right MCL injury on his knee. And apparently he's going to miss several weeks for the Miami Heat. And he is out for the play-in elimination game versus the Chicago Bulls, which is super unfortunate for Jimmy. Clearly in a lot of pain throughout the rest of the game, and really, I think, hindered the Miami Heat because he was out there on the floor competing, which is very admirable, but he also was clearly dealing with a lot and was not his best playoff Jimmy self. So fast recovery to Jimmy Butler, and hopefully, if the Heat win, he can get back at least sometime during the playoffs. But listen, man, let's talk about some of the performances we saw in this game from both teams, mainly Nick Batum, who dropped a season high 20 points in that game, and basically so far is definitely the hero of the 76ers season, arguably saving it last night. 20 points from Nick Batum, 7 of 12 from the field, and 6 of 10 from the three-point line, which is insane. Batum averaged 5 points a game this season and was really more of a defensive kind of role player. He's got good versatility, can, make a lot of good plays, a smart player. Like I said, good defender, can knock down a corner three once in a while, really quick release on his jump shot, and he's a good passer and rebounder. Just does all the little things, solid role player. Just a guy you can trust out there. But he had it absolutely rolling last night, dropping 20 points, like I said, really saving the Sixers season with a lot of those clutch shots from three being in the fourth quarter and keeping us in that game. Joel Embiid looked, I'm going to be honest, not great up until the last few minutes of the fourth quarter. He actually played 38 minutes, which I thought was very fascinating because, again, he looked really tired and kind of out of shape. And I guess, Coach Nurse is like, hey, our season's on the line, and this is a way of getting him back in shape if we do win. But he ended up with 23 points and 15 rebounds, 5 assists. So pretty good in that regard. He had, monster game on the glass and stuff like that. And, 23 points is pretty good. And 5 assists too. He was passing the ball well. He did have 3 turnovers, 1 steal, and 0 blocks. But the big thing with him was the free throws. Hit some really clutch ones towards the end of the game. 9 of 10 from the line. Also 2 of 4 from 3. Hit some really, really clutch threes in the fourth quarter. Both of them were in the fourth quarter, I think, or maybe one was at the end of the third quarter, but one of them was super big with like 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. He knocked down a 3 and kept us in the game, but 6 of 17 from the field is just not going to cut it. And honestly, he just wasn't moving the same way he usually does. He looked super slow and like just not in the right condition to be playing that many minutes as the primary guy on the Sixers, which is concerning, I'd say. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but Tobias Harris struggled. He had 9 points and 10 rebounds rebounds. 10 rebounds is pretty good. 4 assists as well, but he was just not what we needed him to be last night. Kyle Lowry was awesome on the hustle plays and on the defensive end. He was all over the floor defensively. Maxey had a pretty good game. Nothing crazy. Kind of struggled shooting the ball. Like I said, the Heat were really giving us issues in the first half with that zone. So a lot of these numbers are super lower, like field goal percentage wise, than you'd like, but I think that's a little skewed given the first half and second half difference. So yeah, amazing performance from Nick Batum, saving our season. Let's go. Love to see it. Embiid really became Embiid in the last 2 minutes of the game or so props to him. I do worry about the injury. Jimmy Butler finished with 19 points, 5 of 18 from the field. He kind of had a rough game, especially towards the second half because of that injury. Like I said, he was clearly as well not moving the same, similar to Embiid, and it just wasn't his playoff Jimmy self. He wasn't able to do those things. He did have 5 steals though. The turnovers for the Sixers were really bad. Like I said, 15 turnovers total, and I believe he had 10 in the first half, so not good. I think the biggest problem with the Heat last night was Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo had a pretty well-rounded good game. Got in foul trouble early, but also just didn't chip in much offensively, which you hate to see. Had a really good few defensive plays, but just wasn't the offensive contribution you would need. Tyler Hero shot abysmal from the field, 9 of 27, 4 of 14 from 3. Did chip in 9 assists though, but had 5 turnovers as well. I think a little bit more efficient, and the Heat win that game. Terry Rozier, DeAnthony Melton, and Robert Covington were all out for the game, so I think Rozier missing that game for the Heat actually made a huge impact on their season. Unfortunately, that is a huge loss in that game. Kevin Love played well, and Jaime Jaquez also did pretty good. 6 of 11 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. Now, let's talk about after this game where the Sixers go from here. Obviously, they're playing the New York Knicks. The Knicks will be the 2 seed, 76ers 7 seed, so it'll be a first round matchup against New York. The Knicks have home court, so that's gonna be tough. Obviously Madison Square Garden's gonna be popping. I'm gonna briefly talk about this series just a little bit, just because I think it's important to the video, but I also am gonna be making a full playoff prediction video, so I want to save a lot of it for that because I think that's more of the format I want to go at. But I do think this series is gonna be closer than people think. I think a lot of people are just picking the Knicks because of Embiid's injury, but I will say if Embiid can play a little better than he did last night, and last night he was, statistically pretty good, he just wasn't himself, obviously. But either way, if he's out there and drawing all the attention that he draws, even if he can give us a little bit more than he did last night, I still think the Sixers have a good chance of beating New York in a 7-game series. I think the Knicks would be my favorite to win the series, honestly, but I do have a lot of hope for my Sixers, and not just blind hope either. I think there's a real objective chance that they have to win that series. If I'm New York, that's not the team I want to play, obviously. I'd probably rather play Miami, to be honest, but either way, that's gonna be the series, and we'll talk about that in maybe either tomorrow or Saturday's video, so make sure you guys subscribe and stay tuned for that. Like I said, let's move on to the Chicago Bulls versus the Atlanta Hawks, even though I don't want to. I'm trying to soak in all the moments I can from that Sixers game. So hype. Probably the best moment of the season we're gonna have anyway. The Bulls came out, as I hinted at in last video, that the Bulls were gonna win that game, especially inside, because the Hawks struggled defensively mightily, especially inside the paint with Onyeka Okongwu and Jalen Johnson out for the game, which really affected them. Trae Young was back, but that hand is really bothering him, I think. Didn't have the best game, obviously. I'm gonna read the stats here. Bulls came out and dominated start to finish pretty much. They played so well, and I think if they bring that to the Miami Heat game on Friday, which is tomorrow, I think there's such a good chance that they win that game pretty handedly. The Bulls looked really good on both ends of the floor the entire match. They didn't have any issues. Kobe White dropped 42 points on 15 of 21 shooting, which is, just ridiculous numbers for that game. He is such an impressive player this season. In my opinion, should be the most improved player. I think Tyrese Maxey is going to win it, but I really think Kobe White deserves it more. 15 of 21 from the field is legendary numbers. 42 points in a season elimination game. Like, that's just insane. The Bulls shot so well. They shot 56% from the field, 42% from 3 for the entire game. They were just, like I said, dominating on both ends. I never felt like at any point the Hawks were going to win that game. I watched the whole thing. Third quarter got a little hairy for the Bulls. The Hawks came back. They're just really good offensively, but they just didn't have enough, and the Bulls were absolutely dominant. Now, the worrisome thing, if you're the Chicago Bulls, is Alex Caruso, who sustained a quote-unquote significant right foot sprain during the contest, and I'm reading the quote from ESPN. Only played 17 minutes in the game. Obviously had a Caruso type impact on both ends, but that's worrisome. That's one of your best players if you're the Bulls. So Vucevic was elite, dropping 11 of 21 from the field and 24 points. DeMar DeRozan was awesome on every aspect of the game. 22 points, 10 of 19 from the field, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, 1 block, 1 steal. Was just electric in that game. Plus 27 too. He led the team in plus minus. Ayo Dosunmu, who is one of the brightest young players for the Bulls, who I really like, and I'm glad has turned on the Jets for his career this season. 8 of 12 from the field, 19 points, 3 of 4 from 3. Just an awesome all-around game from this roster. You got to be so happy with the performance if you're Chicago. I actually thought it would be a little bit closer than it was, but like I said, the Hawks really struggled phenomenal defensively and offensively at times throughout the game. Trae Young going 4 of 12 from the field. He did get 13 free throw attempts, made 11 of them, which is pretty good, but 22 points, 10 assists, 6 turnovers. Just wasn't, you know, the same Trae Young after that injury that we expect. DeAndre Hunter had a real rough one, 3 of 16 from the field, 8 points. Clint Capella had a really solid game statistically, 11 of 15 and 17 rebounds, 22 points. That's a monster game for a center, but just wasn't enough. Like I said, the Hawks don't have the size that they need. DeJounte Murray was incredible, really kept the Hawks in that game in my opinion. Such a great performance from him. 30 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 11 of 21 from the field. Bogdanovich was good as well, but the Hawks, you know, they're just limited because of their, you know, injuries and stuff like that. The Bulls are just a better team, honestly, but let's talk about the Bulls and Heat matchup. Who's going to win that in my opinion? And I personally think the Bulls are probably going to end up winning that game, even though the Heat will be at home. You'll have no Jimmy Butler. Let me check if Terry Rozier is supposed to play in that game. Let's see. It appears that Terry Rozier will be questionable, or at least a game time decision. That's what it says on ESPN right now, waiting for an update, but that'll be a big deal whether he plays or not for the Heat. They're going to need every bit of offense they can without Jimmy. Alex Caruso is also questionable, so that'll be a different, you know, topic, but with the season on the line, I think he might play depending on how bad that foot injury is. Either way, I picked the Bulls to win that game without Jimmy. If they play like they did last night, and I know the Hawks are a much inferior opponent to the Heat, but they really looked really good to me on both ends of the floor like the entire game. So if they come out with that energy and intensity and can get off to a start like that and just kind of keep it going throughout the game like they did last time, I think that'll, you know, give the Heat a lot of issues. I think the zone won't be as effective on the Hawks because they have a lot of mid-range action that they can go to, with DeMar DeRozan being the mid-range god that he is. And I think the Bulls have a much better, you know, maybe like pick and roll game with certain big guys on their team, like Vucevic, gonna make it tough to play that zone consistently because he's gonna get to the rim and find a way to get easy positioning. Embiid was a little bit hobbled last night, well, a lot hobbled obviously, so it was harder for him to attack that zone and get in good position because of the injury. So I think Vucevic gonna have an easier time. Drummond as well. So I expect the Bulls to come out of that game and basically get swept by the Boston Celtics in the first round. But that's gonna be it for the video. I had to talk about all this stuff. I'm so happy for my Sixers. Can't wait for the playoffs. Knicks Sixers. I don't know. I'm not gonna give my predictions yet. I'm gonna save that for the playoff video. Make sure you guys drop a like on this one. It really helps out the channel, helps new people find the video. So if you did enjoy it, make sure you guys like it. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already for more content coming up. We're gonna be uploading every day throughout the playoffs and stuff like this every single day. We're gonna be doing a full playoff prediction, probably like I said, either tomorrow or Saturday. So make sure you guys subscribe. I don't want you guys to miss that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna put a lot of work into the playoff prediction video, so it's gonna be a big one on the channel. I don't want you guys to miss that. Hopefully I get them all right. Probably won't. We'll see. And let me know down in the comment section what you thought of last night's game if you watched it. What do you think, you know, the next game entails for the Bulls and Heat, which will determine their seasons? One of them will be eliminated by the time that game ends. What do you think it's gonna be? How much impact do you think Jimmy's injury is gonna have on that game? Obviously he's their best player, so probably quite a bit, I'd say. And what do you think about the Sixers Knicks matchup? Let me know all that down in the comment section. I love engaging with you guys. I just love basketball and I'm happy to be here. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today, and hopefully your favorite team wins their next NBA game, and hopefully your favorite team sweeps the Knicks in the first round of the NBA playoffs in 2024. I will catch you guys on the next one. This is your boy D-Haven. As always, peace.